Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. If you like the video, make sure to do that down below and don't forget to subscribe. Today we're looking at a Fabled support which is coming out of Blazing Vortex. That's the current ongoing new OCG set that's been announced. We've had about 3 archetypes being revealed now, and I'll kind of list them down below as well, just so you can access them if you want. There's the Fabled archetype, there's the new Armed Dragon cards, so there's an introduction of new level monsters in that, and there's also Wind Witch support as well. Anyway, today we're covering the Fables. So the first is Fabled Marcosia. It's a level 4 light fiend effect monster with 1700 attack and 0 defense. You can only use this card's name's first and second effects once per turn each. 1. If this card is in your hand, you can discard 1 or 2 monsters except itself, but you must discard at least 1 Fabled monster, and if you do, special summon this card. And if you do that, this card gains 200 attack for each monster you discarded with this effect. 2. If this card is discarded to the graveyard, you can add 1 Fabled spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So for anyone who isn't aware, this is how Fables work. They actually like to discard each other, and they get effects off of their discarding, whether that be to special summon themselves, search for something, or do something else. I think one of the tuner monsters, I think it's Fabled Raven, when it discards cards, it gains a 500 attack boost for each card discarded until the end of the turn, so you can get it quite big if you want. It starts off with 1300 attack, and then it also modifies its level by the number of times you've discarded. So if you've discarded 3 cards, it will go for, it will gain 3 levels. That's how that works. So this card can become a 2100 attack monster if you discard 2 cards. I like the fact that it gives you an option that you can either discard, you can also discard other cards if you want, because certain cards such as Bacon Saver have effects which work in the graveyard, same as something like Necro Gardener. So you can always do that, but I like also having the stipulation of you need to get rid of at least 1 Fabled monster, because that way it keeps to the archetype. You're not just randomly splashing this card into whatever, say the Phantom Knights cards, just so you can shove them in the graveyard. It does kind of at least work that way. And also it has a discard effect of itself to be able to actually search one of your Fabled spell or traps. Which means that you're able to use, if this card isn't useful for you at the time, you can use it in order to bring out something, to search for something that might be better given the situation. The Fables are quite an old archetype. I'm actually going to have a quick... So I've done a little bit of research into when the Fables actually came out. This is about, not surprisingly, about 10 years old or longer. You've got cards from some of the hidden Arsenal sets, including the second one. You've got the Judas Terminals, and you've got various other forms which came within Japan, their versions as well. As well as they had a couple of main series support as well from Judas Revolution, which is a 5Ds support, and Star Strike Blast as well. So I think it's about time that they got some sort of support anyway. The next card is the Fabled Afanc. It's a level 2 light beast tuner effect monster with 1000 attack and 600 defense. You can only use this card's name's effect once per turn. 1. If this card is in your graveyard, you can discard 1 Fabled monster, and if you do, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Right. So the archetype, how it works is it is synchro led anyway, so being able to actually special summon this is perfectly fine. My issue with this is this effect only works when it's in the graveyard. It should be able to work, it should trigger in the hand as well, or on the field, because I just think that's necessary to make this a little bit more viable, because that way you can use this special summon effect twice. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on having other cards already on your field to tune with this. This is good from the point of view that you can also synchro up, if you know what I mean. So you might have like a level 6 synchro monster on your field. You might have used this card before, use its effect to discard something which gains its effect, as well as this being able to summon itself to the field, and then synchro summon that using that level 6 monster, and this card to go into your level 8 synchro monster. It's all about synchro gaining where you can, and this one card is very supportive of that. The next card, and I think this is the last of the monsters, is the Fabled Wraith. Of course, there needs to be a synchro monster, considering that's how this deck works. Even though it's not really a boss monster, it's kind of some support for it. Anyway, it's a level 6 Light Fiend synchro effect monster with 2,400 attack and 1,900 defense. The materials need to be a Fabled tuner plus one or more non-tuner monsters. That's okay, and you don't want this being splashed into everything, so I can understand that point for requiring it to have a Fabled tuner. You can only use this card's name's first and second effects once per turn each. If this card is special summoned, you can activate this effect. Your opponent can discard one card to negate this effect, otherwise you draw 2 cards, then discard 1. And 2, if a monster is sent from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, you can target one of those monsters, special summon it to your field, but negate its effects. So, my thing about this is it does add to the consistency. When it's special summoned, you're able to draw 2 cards and discard 1. My issue with this is this allows your opponent to very easily respond to this, as they can just discard 1 card to negate this effect. They could get rid of one of their less useful cards and potentially stop you from doing anything. Of course, this, if you just looked at this plainly from its first effect, it's not worth running. Going into a 2,400 attack monster, level 6 with no real effect to it, is not good. These days, things are so easy to overrun with that kind of stat line, it's not even worth it. But for the second effect, if your opponent uses, gets rid of a card, often this will be like a trap monster, one of those hand traps, such as Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit, or Effect Failure, in order to use its effect. This will be able to recover it before it's able to actually use that effect, before it technically hits the graveyard. I think that's how it works. If it doesn't, please comment down below, so this will avoid any confusion. But it also lets you special summon it. The Ghost, the Ghost Ogre series are able to, I think they're tuner monsters, so you can actually get synchro summon off of that as well if you want, or potentially a tribute summon if you want to look at it from that point of view as well. This second effect is why I think this card is good. First effect, I can take it either here nor there. It's okay, but it just doesn't cut the mustard these days. The next card is, every archetype these days needs its own field spell. Otherwise, it's not considered, suitable. It's Stairway to the Fabled World. It's a field spell, and you can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. You can only use this card's name's second effect once per turn. When this card resolves, you can send 1 Fabled monster from your deck to the graveyard. 2, you can target 1 Fabled monster in your graveyard, discard 2 cards, and if you do, add the targeted monster to your hand. And 3, during damage calculation, if your Fabled monster is attacking an opponent's monster, and you have fewer cards in hand than your opponent, your attacking Fabled monster gains attack equal to your opponent's your current hand size deficit times 200 during that damage calculation only. So this card actually does have really good effects for what the Fable cards need. For starters, you're able to send a Fable monster to the graveyard, which means if you're able to do that, you can recover that card a lot faster. The second effect actually works off of the first effect because you can get the card that you've sent, you might want back. So getting rid of 2 cards to get that card back, you might see it as worth it. And if they happen to be Fabled monsters, they then get their effects off being discarded. so you're not really ever losing out from this second effect. And of course, the third effect is a nice little niche to it, which makes it a bit separate to many of the generic field spells for certain archetypes, and actually gives it a level of attack boost. If you're running low on cards, say your opponent has maybe 3 cards and you've got no cards in your hand, then when your Fabled monsters are attacking, they gain 600 attack during the damage calculation only. I would say this is good that it's only helping and supporting Fabled monsters, otherwise it would be run too generically. But I would say it is very minimal attack boost and it's not consistent. It's also only reliant on your turn and when you're attacking. So at any other point of the turn, your monsters are never going to be stronger than your opponents. So you're going to have to run other things to kind of support this as well. And the final card is Fabled Regicide. It's a normal trap card. You can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. Target 1 Fabled monster in your graveyard and 1 face-up card on the field. Discard 1 card, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster in the graveyard, and if you do that, destroy the targeted card on the field. So I think this card is quite decent, again, for what the Fabled archetype needs. First, you can bring back one of your Fabled monsters. Say there's a synchro monster that you've used and it's just kind of gone to the graveyard, you've synchro summoned it properly. You can always bring that back, as even if it doesn't have an effect that can actually trigger, it's still a body on board. And you're actually able to get rid of a face-up card. And it doesn't specify which. It could be yours or it could be your opponent's. If you've got an effect that can trigger off of your own card destruction, that's fine, you can trigger that. Or alternatively, if your opponent is running a field spell or a key card that is face-up, you can get rid of that. It does not have to be a spell or trap. It can also be a monster. So you can easily get rid of your opponent's monster as well. The last benefit is, of course, discarding cards. Again, I'll say it again. The Fables are known for this. So you're getting a bonus off of this effect as well. I think they've really looked into how the archetype works, and I like that Konami has actually tried to properly support the Fabled archetype. It's not giving them a handful of cards. I will keep going back to this because this makes me so annoyed. The Charmers really didn't get anything. I think what they gave in terms of support was a joke. This is actually something viable for them, and I could easily see some people actually playing this. Not in the competitive nature, but definitely higher than it was. Higher than the Forgotten status it was 10 years ago. Higher than it'll probably be for, some time. And it will actually get some recognition and actually get people to start playing it. I'm happy from that point of view. Whatever you think, leave your comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.